All right. Hello. Welcome back. Thank you. New rebranding. So this is going to be called either the Stream of Consciousness podcast or the I already forgot. Going going full artistic. Apologize for the scruffly noises. I'm trying to find a spot with like the least amount of background noise. This thing picks up background noise like crazy, so it might pick up the my computer. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm gonna look over here and see how it picks it up. That way I can do notes and stuff. Um, so first thing, yeah, I'm going full artistic. What's that mean? It means I'm gonna stop censoring myself. Um, it's probably gonna be like super ADD, so you're probably gonna have a hard time following me. But um, who I am is not somebody who's neat and composed and well put together and well formatted into logical chunks. It actually takes insane amounts of energy for me to do that. So uh, I'm going to need your help to try to follow along here, and hopefully this audio quality doesn't suck. I'm going to keep moving the bean around, and hopefully it doesn't just like blow the audio out. Um, it looks okay on the levels. I'm not sure. Let's see, is there? Nope, nope. Uh, I don't know. It's hard for me to tell the levels. I think this is okay. Anyway, first, no particular order. We'll get to the main. I'll still try to have a main topic, which is going to be a hurricanes slash Appalachia part two. We'll get to that later. First thing, um, I'm a hyper creative person, as if that's not obvious. There's a big problem with being hyper creative, which means your workspace has to be perfect, but also your workspace has to be mobile for when you're for when creativity hits you. It's like hard to explain. It's like a wavelength that you have to like dial into. You have to be there and you have to be ready for it, and it's really hard when you want to work on like two or three things at the same time. It's also really hard when you have a super engaging job. I have a super engaging job. I don't talk to you guys about it a lot. My real life job, I basically eat, breathe, sleep, dream that job. It's impossible to turn off. I think about it every second. And the only way I can get away from it is if I do something that's even more challenging and engaging. And I already have an insanely, incredibly challenging and engaging job. So finding things that are even more than that are a challenge. It is insanely hard for me to shut my brain off, uh, to quiet it down enough to actually be able to create something. So compound that with somebody that you really care about being injured really, really bad and needing to have emergency surgery, and realizing, even though you tell everybody, you're going to go through tons and tons and tons of gauze. Um, you go through tons and tons and tons of gauze. And then you realize that the person's like skin is ripping off from the adhesives, from the different types of tapes. And then you realize all this China copy bullshit that I complain about also has to do with gauze and tape. And it's not just electronics, it's everything. Us being reliant on China and China having no accountability for the absolute garbage, no name garbage that they produce is already bad for electronics. It's already bad for antibiotics, as some of you are very familiar with. But it's tape, it's masks, it's gauze, it's everything. we're insanely over reliant on China for our manufacturing and baby toys, baby food, like everything. And you become acutely aware of it when someone that you really care about's life is basically in your hands, and you realize that you have to trust that China is making medical equipment that's going to take care of them, and it's Timu garbage. And it's it's extremely distracting and frustrating. And so, how do you try to find medical equipment? How do you try to find gauze? How do you try to find adhesives that aren't going to just rip their skin off? That are made in America. You go, oh, buy local. Ugh, they all get it from the same place. You buy a local, and then the gauze rips their skin right off their body. And this is the person that you're supposed to love, and this person that you're supposed to be caring for. And you factor this in with like still having to work all day and your own health and burnout. And then the people online are arguing about the stupidest shit. And they're voting and they're controlling everybody's lives predicated on just absolutely idiotic stuff. And you realize that we're all screwed. And Mocha knows I'm stressed out, so he's crabbing at me. That's one interesting thing I noticed about this. This picks up the cat's meowing really good. Yeah. So, where do I have this? Hopefully these audio levels are good. You got like, I've said this before, like people don't realize how bad it's going to be. Nowhere in my books do I even come close to how bad it's really going to be. And that video game I was playing, like Forever Winter, that's kind of like one of the dark, futures where people are put into robots and other people are, eating each other in like big, like cannibal meat factories and stuff. Like, you don't get it. Most people don't get how bad it's going to be. And we are like one hair away from that. And one of the podcast topics that I had recorded and then I shit canned talked about how I was calling them barbarians for a while. Then I started calling them ferals. Not the racist kind of ferals, just like how an animal can be feral, like it's back to its root programming, right? And I was calling them ferals because that I can't find a name in the English dictionary, and I haven't checked the rest of the dictionaries yet, for just like what what word is there when someone's empathy is gone? And it's like being a sociopath or like a psychopath. Those are like the closest words. But when people have just reverted back into animals, and in this episode that I deleted, I was talking about how there's all kinds of different ways that this can happen. You can be really tired. You can be blackout drunk. There's some different drugs. You can be in like a fight or flight mode. you can, head injuries, or some people are just born with no empathy at all, which doesn't mean they're inherently evil. It just means that everything to them has about the emotional weight of a pebble on the ground. And we're one bad day away from devolving into just pure feral behavior. And we still don't know what it's going to be. Um, what's going to kick it off. I wish I knew, but even if I did know, there's nothing I could do about it. Um, People don't train. Survival Lily just kind of did a thing about this. She's another great YouTuber. Um, when people get desperate, that whole humanity thing goes to sleep, and the person's base instincts take over. And you take away people's internet, and then you take away their food, and you take away their family's food, and all of a sudden, like, left, right, up, down, green, purple, like, doesn't matter anymore. And I was talking about pharmaceuticals. What do you think all these people that are in mid transition are going to do when all their meds go away? Like, all these kids that are on all these meds, the cats are doing their thing. What do you think all these kids are going to do when they're not on their meds anymore? Or all these people at work that the only thing that's holding them together is the fact that they're just on these perfectly orchestrated cocktails of meds that doctors took years to figure out exactly how to, like, perfectly balance their hormones just so they could, like, barely function. You're dealing with freaking ticking time bombs all day. These people have never they've never faced and had to survive and had to, like, confront reality. And so when they say they have PTSD, for example, unless they were in the military, you don't really know what they went through. But in a way, it doesn't matter because now their brain's permanently affected, right? Like, does it mean that they had a psychotic break? Like, something happened that, like, broke their reality and they just can't put it back together again? Or does it just not matter and some people are just more fragile than others, and that's just the way it is? Like, once that genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back. And I think that way a lot about, like, religion too. Like, all the atheists in the world, even if there was, like, literal demons and angels walking around in fiery bushes that are talking and walls of water where you can see the fishies in them, every biblical crazy thing you could imagine, the atheists would still say they don't believe it. That whole, like, subjective reality thing has completely taken over as, like, a society coping mechanism. And it's almost become like a self-fulfilling meme. And my concern going into this election is that the other side has gone all in, like, on the cult aspect. They are leaning so far in, and this is propping them up so much that it is all they have left. And they will suck it down until the last second. no matter what their handlers and the cabal, they will suck it down no matter what. And in one day, all those people are just going to vanish. The people that, are telling them that everything is okay. And they're going to realize that they got rug pulled and that the whole thing was a Ponzi scheme. Just like the clot shots. Like, some perfectly healthy kid, just like football player, blah, 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 peak health, high school, just died in his sleep out of absolutely nowhere. Like, these people are going to have to face they're going to have to face their reality, and I think it's going to make PTSD look like a sneeze and a fart at the same time. Their reality is going to break, and it's so propped up, so high. Some of them, they already can't function without walking by something they don't like, or walking by someone that said something they don't like. Like, they're already primed. Like, this is by design. Whoops. And then you have the fact that they're letting illegals over, like, right out of prisons, in the tens of thousands, and they're releasing murderers sometimes like the same day, over and over. Like, they are trying to wipe society out and, like, gaslight it at the same time. And we're all sitting there going, like, what the fuck? And you scream to the top of your lungs, and you point, and you show people the truth. And you have conservatives too that are just the dumbest fucking people on the planet. Oh my gosh. And you got what I was calling, like, new MAGAs that are just the dumbest fucking people until they grow out of being a new MAGA and realize what making America great again would actually entail, and then they just get totally blackpilled. And all these fake fucking libertarians, and it's just like, everybody on all sides is pretty much, like, delusional. And it's not being, what's the word? Nihilistic. Like, it's true. There is no coming out of this. Like, we are, is what I was trying to say earlier. Like, we're in the death loop now. We're in the doom loop, the doom spiral. Like, we're there as a society. And I talked about this a couple podcasts ago when everyone was gaslighting each other in the city, saying, oh, look at how great things are. And they were showing, like, the skyline at 6 a.m. And it's like, those meth zombies walking around aren't from today. They're from yesterday. The people that are hunting around for fentanyl at 7 in the morning have been hunting around for fentanyl since, like, the night before. Fentanyl and meth and trank and all this shit, and the gang violence has turned into, like, a 24-hour a day affair. Convenience store robberies and pot store robberies. You might think, oh, just cherry pick XYZ. It's like, there's always something bad happening. This is like, you might have thought before that you were hearing it all the time, but I think that was maybe like the same news story being covered 3 days in a row just to raise awareness. If you start looking at the addresses you will realize this shit is happening everywhere, every day. You're not hearing the same story repeated 3 times. You're hearing the same thing happening in 3 different places every fucking night. And or every day in some cases. There was, I don't even understand how the fuck this happened, but somebody called in 2 suspicious people. This happened earlier today or yesterday. Uh, I don't, and the something got up the cops' butts. I don't know. I don't know the real story, but actually I think like it's standard SOP if you're checking on a car because there's like suspicious people and there's like 2 people passed out on a car. I think they just put spike strips there just maybe to cover their asses. I think that's what it is. And the 2 people woke up and they tried to take off and the cops chased them. And eventually the tires blew out. And it turns out these people had a bunch of like IEDs on them. This just has happened like within the last day. And they were running down the freeway trying to throw IEDs at the police in broad fucking daylight in the middle of the fucking day. These tennis ball sized things, they were trying to light them and throw them at the cops as the cops were chasing them. What the what the fuck is going on? Like, what is it? You know, like, is something in the water, or are these just like, they won't give any details on either of the suspects, which usually means one thing. There's some ethnicity that they don't want to start a race war over, which is fine. Nobody in their right mind wants a race war because we're all on the same team. But if it's not because they're worried about a race war, if they're worried it's going to hurt Kambala's campaign, the world deserves to know, or at least the United States deserves to know. But the closer we get to elections, the more of a fog of war there is, the more confusing everything gets. And I kind of lost where I was going with all this. Suffice it to say, it's getting fucking shitloads worse. And people go, I don't listen to the news. I don't listen to the news. I've got so many friends. I don't listen to the news. You don't have to listen to world news. You don't even have to listen to national news. But you should fucking know what's going on down your damn street. And if you have to travel on the freeway, you should know what's happening on the freeway. And if there's some kind of new way that people are ambushing each other on the roads, you should learn about it. Like, people are getting killed every day just because they're not paying attention to the new tactics from the bad guys. The bad guys are constantly changing up what they do. And yeah, you kind of gotta read between the, but you don't have to watch the news. You can just subscribe to your local station's YouTube channel, and they usually have like 2.5 minute clips. It's so easy to keep up to speed. Sometimes they're like 30-second clips. Like, you can follow like 2 or 3 news stations and get all, just by reading the thumbnails, you can pretty much glean the info that you need to most of the time. But gosh darn it, like over July, there was like one weekend where there was like 5, 6, 7 shootings. And then like the next weekend there was like even more, and would have thought that it was all one incident. And then guy, you check the addresses. And I was even talking to the news station. I'm like, you guys need to put up a map because this shit is hard to follow. And to their credit, they did. But like, You've got to be more aware, and you've got to be more prepared, and you've got to train. They want us disarmed. They don't want us to train. They don't want us to practice. They don't want us to network. They don't want us to be aware. They don't want you to vote at all. It just makes them easier to steal the vote again. They try to disenfranchise, and they try to discourage everybody, and they try to make everybody too busy and too pissed off at each other. Because this whole thing is just being floated. It's being artificially floated to an end. There's no illusion of sustainment. There's no way to get to sustainment from here. And that's how I know. They're not trying to sustain things. That's what I was talking about with the longshoremen in Hollywood, and the living wage, and what a body's worth, what health is worth. That's what I was talking about. Like, they're not trying to get this train back on the rails. Some things are still going to be fine for a while. You know, it's not all doom and gloom. Like, what I mean is, like, not everything is going to crash at the same time. But you can tell everything's getting worse. And there's always these kind of like false improvements that happen where they make everything look good for a little while. Crypto looks good for a little while. You know, interest rates look good for a little while. They always do this shit on purpose, like right before an election, to kind of give people the illusion that everything's fine. You know, gas prices are a little bit better. You know, they try to tease that they're not taking away everybody's guns. They count on the fact that just like everybody's got goldfish memory. But it just keeps getting worse. Like, you can't buy modern rifles in our state. You can't buy standard capacity mags in our state. You know, silencers and SBRs still require tax stamps. You know, they tried to ban bump stocks and braces. Like, none of this ever. There's no amount of complying or behaving yourself that gets us back to where we want to go. And just, you can even tell from the lefty loos, like, no amount of complying. You know, there's a bunch of things that the lefty loos want too that they're not getting. They're not happy either. They're getting lied to also. That's what I was trying to say on like the last podcast. They're in massive denial. They excuse their own side. And I think they have plenty of valid concerns. The problem is they refuse to hold their own side accountable for the concerns that they have. They want to hold conservatives responsible for things that their own side has very real responsibility for, culpability at the very least. And they just don't care. As long as they have somebody to blame and they don't have to look in the mirror, like, they can keep going forever. That's, I think, the most terrifying thought of all, is they could be starving to death, and as long as they have somebody to blame, or they could be out of power, or they could be out of cell, as long as they have somebody to blame, like, they'll do it. I mean, you never hear about them completely going without. And I want to say, like, the Rona lockdowns were like the very first indication of that. They didn't have to suffer They just behaved themselves and they were good little turds and got their clot shots and boosters, and they got to keep their jobs. Their houses were paid for. Their schools had food. They gave them computers for their kids to keep going. Like, they didn't lose their house. They were taken care of. So they've never had to suffer the consequences of all the stupid decisions that they have to make. Because they tell themselves, like voting away their gun rights, they have themselves convinced that they would rather die than defend themselves. That's just how neurotic they are. They live in like a different reality. And again, not saying conservatives are any better, it's just different. They sit there and watch football and not sacrifice anything while the fucking world falls apart. And then they fall into the same traps as the left because they would just rather take the path of least resistance than actually fight. Metaphorically speaking, half the time you can't even get them to vote. And then they go, voting's useless, but they refuse to vote. It's like, dude, go count the votes. We just had like a vote that was like 50, was decided by like 50 votes or some damn thing. So everyone, this whole info war, as AJ calls it, I mean, it's real. It's just a war on how people think, because if they can control how you think, they can control how you act, they can predict what you're going to do, and they can manipulate and control you. The best thing you can do is be unpredictable. But people are so damn predictable. They always choose the path of least resistance. So, going back to the Appalachia thing, I think that's. I was trying to say this on the last one, but it wasn't coming through very well. I wasn't making very much sense. I don't think the people in the Appalachians were begging for FEMA help. I think that was all just keyboard warriors on Twitter that just feed, whether they're blue checks or what, feed on the outrage. There was a completely different set of influencers, Mr. Guns and Gear and P&W, is it P&W Outfitters? I can't remember his name now. But all of those people, instead of sitting there and blaming FEMA and blaming the sheriffs that are confiscating everything, they went out and did something about it. And it's the same thing with like Florida. I mean, the citizens have been developing their own ways to respond for a long time now. That's actually how CERT was formed, except unfortunately CERT's under FEMA, but all the training is still really good. And people like to go take supplies. I think a lot of them do it for the wrong reasons. But I think people go up for the wrong reasons anyway. They go up there for photo ops and then they realize they're in over their head. But other people, excuse me, other people go up there and they know what they're getting into and they try to help. And unfortunately, other people accuse them of being glory whores, and they're a bunch of keyboard warriors. And I think I was saying this before. If everyone would just stay in their lane, it'd be fine. But I don't remember if I said that on this podcast or if I said that somewhere else. If everyone would just stay in their damn, I think it was in someone's YouTube comments. But if everyone would stay in their lanes, it'd be fine. If people are just gonna run their fucking mouths over how the recovery's going, they should just shut their internet and their social media off because they're being fucking useless. If you're gonna go help, be prepared and don't see it as a photo op. But don't virtue signal the shit out of everybody. Don't put everybody else down that you went out there to help. But if you're going up there for just photo ops, just don't go. And it's this whole living vicariously through like other people, both positively and negatively. And I think people who aren't victims, but they want to feel victimhood, become victims vicariously through other people. And I think people who want to rescue people but can't or won't either support people who will, or they criticize people who are because they can't. And I've been stuck in the middle of that before. I helped some people that were very close friends of mine do a convoy to an afflicted area, and I helped them raise money, and I helped with, as memory serves, I helped them with logistics too. People even had places that they could stay and stuff. And it all got thrown back in my face from both sides of my friends. The people that I helped get over there and helped them with all their financing, they threw it back in my face. And all of the people that were against them going threw it back in my face. And I ended up losing like so many friends over that. And I think so maybe what I'm trying to say is like when there are natural disasters and you decide that you're going to help, you're going to lose a lot of friends. You're going to make a lot of new friends, but you're probably going to lose all of your current friends because you find out really fast who has the emotional intelligence to actually deal with the fact that they're not, they're a support element instead of a main element because they're insecure. So the people that were going there to help were insecure, and the people staying behind were insecure. And there was also wildfires going on at the same time. And the ones that stayed, it's coming back to me now. The ones that stayed wanted to help with that evacuation, and they got told they couldn't help with that either. So the people that stayed and didn't go to help with the hurricanes weren't even allowed to stay and help locally either. And this is the shit that they don't talk about on Twitter when one side's running their fucking mouth about FEMA not doing anything and the other side's running their fucking mouth about whatever, people not doing enough or what. Meanwhile, all the people that are actually doing stuff really aren't talking about it that much, both for OPSEC and just because, like, if they don't need donations, they're really kind of just posting it for a little bit of clout, maybe, or they're posting it to try to maybe try to shove it into everyone's faces that they're a good person, or maybe they're just really proud of what they're doing. I don't know. Like, everyone's a little bit different. I think some people post about what they did to help because maybe it encourages people that they can help too, and to not be afraid, and that like you shouldn't be ashamed in packing up a truck to help, and the logistics. We were calling it guerrilla logistics. No, guerrilla aid. Yeah, we were calling it guerrilla aid. And I was trying to get some guys to write a book about how to properly deploy aid when FEMA's and the local law enforcement are actively working against you. Not even getting to mention all the multiple now shenanigans over National Guard helicopters, quote unquote, washing out rescue areas with their rotors. That's insane. I don't even know what the deal with that is. But they're getting in trouble for it. Like, I think if anything, what I've realized through this is that if you just stay true to yourself, you'll eventually find your people. Whether that's good or bad for anybody else, but if you already support somebody and you're happy that they're going out and doing stuff, then you'll appreciate that they're letting everybody know what they do. And if they were taking donations from everybody, them letting everyone know what they're doing, it's nice to know that your donations are going to good people. So it's also kind of a perception thing. But if you hate somebody and they're doing something good, then it's just going to make you hate them even more, instead of just saying, hey, maybe that person's not so bad. But it depends. Some people get carried away. I personally believe in staying local and being prepared and ready to assist people locally. I don't agree with grabbing stuff and driving all the way over to the other side of the country to help. But I'm not going to be a dick to anybody who does it. And what I think people don't realize, and I think Southern Prepper One was trying to explain this to people too, is that some of those YouTubers that are going to help actually live really close to them. And so it is totally within their AO, and it makes perfect sense. And I think I'll kind of end the topic by saying, if the shit hit the fan, you would want people to come help you, but you wouldn't want, gawkers, so, or looters. And so I think you would be a little standoffish. But as, oh god, what's his name? PNW. I'm gonna grab his name because I'm gonna screw it up. He brought up a really good. He and Southern Prepper One, I think, were both talking about this. It gets cold as shit over and got the hiccups now. And OPW Gorilla, duh. Um, he and Southern Prepper One both brought up, like, it's getting super cold there, you know. So, if you're gonna drive something all the way over. Whoops, sorry. I know this mic is probably loud. I'm sorry. If you are gonna haul something massive over there, um, hauling cold weather gear, haul things over that just not everybody, I think they found this out in Flint, Michigan, driving over driving water over isn't really like cost effective. It's sort of just like virtue signaling kind of. You're kind of helping, but it's not really like cost effective. Uh, it's complicated. It depends. But if you're hauling over like cold weather gear, that's like way more cost effective. Does that kind of make sense? I don't know. You kind of got to pick and choose your battles. Um, and you also have to make sure your own area is locked down. Like a bunch of people leaving to go deal with a hurricane while your family is now potentially subjected to, a dangerous fire season or maybe storms of your own. Um, it's best to maybe support somebody else who is closer. Um, so those are just things to think about. I think I said everything kind of that I wanted to say about it. Um, and so I think I'm just gonna continue these like stream of consciousness sort of style podcasts. I think it helps me better, even though it's kind of already what I was doing. I think this, I think this feels maybe, maybe me like fully leaning into it instead of kind of trying to force it. Maybe it's gonna feel a little bit more organic. I'm super worried about the sound quality. Oh yeah, so I'll kind of leave y'all with this. Like, I'm gonna start making like a wish list. But I'm not gonna share it like or anything. But like, it's not gonna. What I mean is, it's not gonna be like a wish list on Amazon or anything. But um, I think Livingston Man said they were like DJI cameras. Looking through my notes. Um, but I think he said there was like a DJI camera that was better than the GoPro camera and those DJI mics. Um, lapel mics is what all the YouTubers use, and I think um, I'm gonna start trying to. I keep forgetting what the word's called. Just think positively about like the gear that I need. Try to conjure it into existence or something because I'm so insanely self-conscious doing these podcasts, wondering if the audio is gonna suck. And the boom, my boom mic, the way that I have to set it up and stuff, and the fact that it's big and intrusive and in my face and wibble wobbles around, it's just big and bulky, and it stifles my creativity. I realize now that like I just need to be able to hook the lapel mic into my phone and just hit record. Um, Having to set all this shit up with my computer is just kills my creativity. So um, and I want to get a new monitor. And all this would just be like if I won the lotto. Um, I'm still very much like saving every single penny to try to be ready for shit hits the fan, or some kind of any kind of emergencies. But what's it called? Like the laws of attraction, or just like the powers of positivity. Like checking eBay. Start checking eBay. See if I can up like the quality, because I think like it would really help me like my consciousness to like not have to worry about my sound. You guys can't imagine how insanely stressful and frustrating it is to like do all of this work to find out your sound is fucking shit. And when I was when I lived with the roommates, their AC unit caused like a backfeed of electricity through the house, back through my computer, and into my. Somehow, the computer was recording this ear piercing, shrieking, horrific noise. And you can't imagine how like demoralizing that is. I was trying to convey that earlier, but that doesn't happen here. But one thing I did notice is when the AC was turning on here when I was outside, the sound dampening was making my audio a little bit lower quality, but it was completely dampening out the AC unit once the AC kicked on. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, I've talked long enough. I'm going to try to keep these under an hour. I flubbed the last one a little bit because I lost track of time when I was splicing the 3 parts together. But I'm going to stop this one, and hopefully the sound's good, and I hope everything I said makes sense. And I appreciate you listening to the whole thing. I really need the listening time if I'm ever going to get my account all the way back up to where it used to be. I need my listening time back. So I appreciate you all listening to the whole thing, and I will talk to y'all later. Let me know if me just openly embracing my stream of consciousness is better than me trying to fight it and carefully weave it into narratives. It's kind of a chicken and egg thing. I still feel like I weave them into narratives anyway, but if I openly embrace at least kind of the messiness of how they get started, I feel like it helps me out a lot. It takes a lot of the pressure off of me rambling for a little bit as I get warmed up. Anyway, talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
The storm brings the wind brings the rain brings the warmth numbs the pain. Why can't things be okay? Why does the world seem so rotten? Why are people so toxic? The cries turn to roars. The days bring the pain. The voices seem insane. We cling to what is right as the clowns retaliate. Why can't things be okay? Why does the world seem so rotten? Why are people so toxic? The mountains turn to shores. They come bound and trained, invisible, linked by chains. Do they come with love or hate? A silence that cannot wait. Why can't things be okay? Why does the world seem so rotten? Why are people so toxic? The houses lock their doors. When will the insanity and empty prisons block the trend? Cannot tell foe from friend. The final message will be sent. Why can't things be okay? Why does the world seem so rotten? Why are people so toxic? It feeds out their pores.
I guess I forgot some things. I always listen back and think of more points that I'd wished I'd said, and trying to figure out somewhere to set my phone. There's a couple points, one of which is like it's a very thin veneer of what makes us who we are. meaning like our autopilot that I was talking about is it doesn't take much for that to take over, like talking about a society collapse or whatever. um, I think we're in autopilot mode more than people realize, whether it's talking in your sleep, having a full-blown conversation in your sleep, sleepwalking around. It happens more often than you think it does. um, you're kind of already in autopilot, at least partially, most of the time anyway, which is why you don't notice when everything's fine, right? You don't your brain is only gonna wake you up when, literally and figuratively, when things are out of place. So you're walking down the street and something's not there, or something is there that is different than before, and your autopilot kind of alerts you to it, like sort of like an onboard computer. If you learn to trust it, it'll take really, really good care of you. Um, but the problem is, people have been like suppressing this onboard computer, um, and they've dangerously programmed themselves into believing that everything is okay when it's not, and it's this. I think it's made everyone's computers haywire, and then it has sort of like a resistance built up where things have to get worse and worse and worse. It's like people have programmed their filters to like stop worrying unless something's like a ludicrously dire emergency, like someone swerving into you in traffic, for example, um, or you driving across train tracks when a train is there. Um, people have like dulled their primal senses so much that literally the only way we're surviving right now is because everybody hasn't just full on gone psycho yet. And um, this is one of the topics that I deleted in a prior podcast that I didn't load, talking about this whole like feral thing. Um, this like base code where we're all effectively animals, and there's just a very, very thin layer, very, very just hair paper thin layer that makes us who we are. And you go without food or sleep for a few days, or in some people's cases, just wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or drugs, or stress, or burnout overcomes you, and those layers start to get worn down, and who you really are starts to come out. And some people, who we are, who we really are deep down inside, is not a bad person, but they're going to be a very deeply misunderstood person. And I think other people naturally reject when they see people in this base state because it scares them and they know something's off. And the more tired I get and the more burnt out I get, the more that other me wants to take over and take care of me, pat me on the shoulder and tell me to go to sleep, and it's time for it time for it to take over. And boy would that be nice. But the problem is that person gets me, my base code gets me in trouble. My base code says things that it's not supposed to, and I think there's an inherent danger in letting it take over, because just based on the things that it says alone, because if you've ever seen like protests In fact, the country country prepping or whatever his name. Can't dang. I'm so bad with names. Uh, country big country. Some hold on. The nice thing about this is I can like kind of click around and look. Um, holy crap. Heavy duty country. Yeah, he was talking. He had a protest, a quick little snippet of a protest on his channel the other day, and people they get kind of like triggered or goaded um, into acting and reacting. If they can't handle their adrenaline, they just freak out. And I've seen just so many people completely freak out, uh, having these like adrenaline spikes in these fight or flight modes. Except they choose fight, but they're like a scrawny 110-pound flailing wuss going up against a full grown man, and they don't. People can use this to their advantage and gaslight people into like reacting, who are people who are not used to having to react, people who've never had a conflict in their life, all of a sudden faced with a life or death situation, just they don't even have necessarily like base code to fall back onto. They just freak out. They're like a calculator with no programming that's just like mashing buttons, right? Doing something, hoping something works because they don't have any training or practice. And I've always thought that that's a problem with these stupid Hollywood movies that make it seem like, 110-pound stick and bones girl can like fight some full grown man, when in reality they would just bounce off them and then fall down because they don't even have like muscle mass because they're just so disgustingly anorexic in some cases, um, like unhealthily skinny, thinking that they even have like enough of my like protein in their body to even be able to, I don't know, grapple with an adult male for even 10 seconds. Like they would move their muscles, they would try to move their muscles would strain against the thing, and then they would just be gassed. Or if they punched him, it would just be like punching a brick wall. And then their body would have an immediate adrenaline dump, and then they would just melt. Which is the difference between, I'll just I'll just say this. It's the difference between an actress that starves themselves because they think that that's a thing, and a proper stunt woman who does cardio and works out and shit all day because they know they might have to do like a stunt 20 times. Like if you had to fight a stunt woman and uh, you weren't in good shape, she would probably just wrestle you because she's just used to having to grapple and roll around and pick herself up and climb up on things and jump back down, and it'd be like it'd be like having to fight a friggin' spider monkey. And that's why, like, I mean, I don't want to get into like really weird territory, but gals who hike around and jog around and like they're just going to do like way better. At least they have like base programming. They're not sitting there binge watching Hollywood thinking they're going to be able to defend themselves. And soy boys are exactly the same way. They're fed they're fed these stupid power fantasies but they don't actually get out and hike around, let alone just know what their body can handle. Um, and I've gotten a lot of shit from my friends before. They think that I just don't want to push myself, but like I get really, really bad headaches, and I have to be really careful. Um, so like I know I'm not going to do great when the shit hits the fan. Um, there's some things I can do about that, but like realistically, not everybody's going to make it. And I think the problem is going back to one of the things. Sorry, I'm hiccuping. One of the things that I didn't get to talk about. Think I think I lost my trail of thought on the last part. Is they don't want to just take away, modern defensive tools and knives and pepper spray, and they want to take away the means to even be able to make those things, right? They want to limit or just completely remove ammo, you know, primers, like and unfinished aluminium pieces that could be, you know, milled into something. Like they want to take all that away, and so they're attacking you like at all angles, right? So not only is everybody's diet, going back to the health thing, not only is everyone's diet screwed up, but everyone's mental health, physical health, and then any chance of like threat disparity, like they will have a full monopoly on you in every capacity. And these I call it the commie diet. These scrawny little like soy boys who will just charge at a full grown man and then bounce off them and then just start shrieking like a banshee. And then their Karen moms just shriek like banshees. I'm gonna beat your ass. You bitch, you're not gonna do nothing. You're like 250 pounds and out of breath just screaming at me. Like they don't they lack like the self awareness to realize that they're being, I can't think of the right word. They're being like herded, like literally like sheep. It's like it'd be like if there was like a sci-fi movie and they were like, all right, how do we subject? No, that's not right. So how do we like get this population just completely defenseless? It's like, well, feed them a bunch of junk food and convince them that they can still fight, but take away all their defensive weapons. Subject the population, is that the word I'm looking for? I don't know. And so, um, kind of tangentially, I was watching. Ah, crap. What's the name of it? There's this really good fighting show um, called. Stupid. That's not what I typed in. Um, wow, the algorithm on YouTube is still pointing you to what it wants you to go to, and not what you're typing in. Um, dang it! I gotta tell my phone to stop going to sleep after 5 minutes if I'm gonna do this. Um, LTT was talking about this recently, but man, the YouTube algorithm is getting even worse. Just in terms of, or its search is its search is getting even worse. And doesn't help that my brain is getting worse too. Oh yeah, it's called Ultimate Self Defense Championship, and season two just wrapped up. It's free on YouTube. Um, Check that out if you haven't. But one of the things they talked about earlier on is they have a quote unquote regular guy in the self defense championship. Oh, by the way, they need help for funding season three. Anyway, um, uh, the guy that does Icy Mike, who does Hard to Hurt, was doing a react video to one of the episodes, and he was talking about how like normal guys, just like being a normal guy, especially like talking about your body again, like working on a farm, working in construction, working in warehouses, for example. I'm paraphrasing. He didn't say all this, but I'm paraphrasing. Like you are going to be inherently stronger than a lot of people. Um, Even if your cardio is not amazing, or if you've got other health issues, you're brute force wise, you're still going to be stronger. And there's another YouTube. I don't remember what it is. It's not even on my algorithm anymore. But it was like a strength contest versus like CrossFitters or heavy weightlifters or whatever the hell what's that called, versus like just people that work on farms all day. And the people, the farm people were significantly stronger than all the power lifters. And I think about that a lot when I'm outside working. Like I don't like I lifted weights when I was a kid. Obviously I don't know. I have some weights and I have a heavy bag and stuff, but you know, I was moving around pots, of dirt yesterday that were like well over 100 pounds. Um, and I was getting down and picking them up and moving them and scooting them around. I had to be careful to not hurt my head, but like even a couple years ago, like there's no way that would have happened. Like just being out here and just picking picking things up and moving them. Moving my friend used to say, moving heavy things. Like guys move heavy things. Like if you're out there and you're moving heavy things, like you're gonna be strong. Or at least you're gonna be stronger than potentially other people, and they can work. So my point is like in the shit is the fan, like you might have to grapple with somebody and they might lift weights all day, but if you're that's only targeting like a couple of muscle groups. Even if you're like a CrossFitter, like that's still only targeting like certain groups potentially. Like if you're out working on a farm all day, you're you're using like every single freaking muscle you have. Or if you're in construction or whatever. And that's what Icy Mike was talking about, because he was police and SWAT, and he was talking about, and he is an MMA guy, and he was talking about having to like arrest like if you had to like arrest a farm worker, it would just be like impossible. Not impossible, but you have to go like into spider monkey mode, because the, every single thing on them has been turned into muscle, and they're just going to be inherently stronger because they haven't been sitting there targeting like certain muscle groups, and they've been doing the cardio anyway. My point is like they want to take all that away, right? They wanted to say, what, oh, testosterone is bad, being masculine is bad. And you even got, a bunch of like fat cops and fat military running around and stuff, and military people complaining that they can't be wearing their makeup when they're doing CQB. And you've only got one kind of makeup. Put on your friggin' camo makeup. That's the only makeup you get. Anyway, they want everyone to be like weak and fat and lazy. And even though it's like mostly like theatrics, like if you've ever seen like the Chinese military train, and I know that a lot of that's theatrics, but holy shit, like that would be a mess with those people tumbling around. Or if you've ever seen like the Russians train, you're like, oh, we're screwed. Like, sure, you might be able to like shoot them theoretically, maybe in a war, but dude, if they ever got their hands on you, they'd manhandle you. Like you'd get mangled. And never mind the fact that they could just chase you down. Like, if you've never seen somebody, just side note, if you've never seen somebody on like meth run around, it makes like the Olympics look like a joke. And like, so how do you think you're gonna contend with a bunch of meth heads running around? Literally, like you're gonna have to have some kind of like defensive weapons. And you're gonna have to have some level of strength and some level of training, or you're gonna default back on being a spaz. And how are you gonna out spaz like a meth head? They're already like hyper territorial and blitzed out of their mind. You can't fight them. They've got who knows how many diseases. Like they could rub a bunch of feces. Like this is another callback to Ultimate Self Defense Championship. But like you've been in a bar brawl maybe, but have you ever been in a bar brawl with somebody who's having like a severe psychotic break and just rubs poop on themselves? Like that sounds gross and weird, but like if you're not training for like the unexpected, and psychological breaks are like one of the biggest ones. Like you might think that your property is going to like deter people, and you've got, oh, look at this property just screams, don't attack my property. uh People with psychotic breaks don't give a shit about any of that. They're reckless, and that makes them dangerous. And fighting somebody who's having a psychotic break is insanely dangerous because they don't behave like a sane person trying to have a fight with you. They might just poke your eyes out or poke their own eyes out. Who know? Like you don't know what they're gonna do. Like people are insane. They could have like an exposed bone and just start stabbing you with it. It's disgusting. Like this is what the world is going to be like. It's going to be completely unglued. And I saw, I saw this Twitter video of a gal that had a big buck in her backyard for some reason. They're like, oh, isn't he cute? Isn't he cute? And this thing was huge. I mean, it wasn't huge. It wasn't a huge elk, but I mean, it had many pointies. It had many pointy daggers on his head. And her fight or flight didn't kick in until it started poking her with his antlers. And he poked her probably about 3 times before she clicked. And she still didn't try to fight it off. She tried to run. Well, These things have giant knife cages on their heads. It's designed to pin you and skewer you, which doesn't even make sense because they have flat teeth and they're defensive creatures, but they're they're used to having to clack clack with each other, you know, to get the most ladies. And he if that deer had like sneezed, it would have skewered her in like three places. And I mean, his antlers were like right up against her jugular. Like it was horrific, horrific to even like the potential for what could have happened. But was just she had no fucking clue. And looking at it through her phone, isn't this the cutest thing? Oh, this is gonna go viral. I'm like, that deer is going to kill her. And unfortunately, the video cuts off before you can see what happens. But she was trying to kind of do like a circle around it. Well, all the deer has to do is just move its head, and it has two giant racks of knives pointed at you. I mean, it could, oh man, it could have been. She was big, tubbykins, out of shape. So this thing, from any angle, could have got her because she's just huge, um, and just dumb as shit. And you realize like this is the society that we're dealing with. And I know I keep going back to this, but like the rest of the world has unleashed its whole prison population on us. And if you want to know what it's going to look like, just watch like Demolition Man. Um, just one of the absolute best movies about this stuff is Demolition Man. It's just so well done. A lot of people would say like Idiocracy, but Idiocracy and I think like Fifth Element have like a lot in common. Um, you're just gonna have people that are just absolutely dumb as shit on set by like total psychopaths. And there's going to be some like middle ground, but those people are going to want to just get left alone. So, what am I trying to say here? Like, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is you can't trust the system. No. Um, you are going to have to figure out ways that you are okay with defending yourself. And you have to start thinking about what reality could look like. Because I think people aren't ready for what reality is going to look like. But I think as creators, we're also not really allowed to tell you completely what it's going to look like. It would just be censored, or people say it was fear mongering. And again, I'll say, like, overall, right now, relatively speaking, things are okay. But they are not okay because we are enforcing it to be okay. Things are only okay because that's they can't let the whole thing get like full blown yet, but you can see it. And I think this is what I want to end with. I'm There's kind of like phases of like how I'm feeling as the situation ebbs and flows between like a relative calm, dare I say, kind of like a planning. There's like a planning and prepping period where society perceives everything as being okay. So usually stuff is like plentiful and affordable. You think, ammo and food, not food anymore, but ammo prices will go down, ammo availability goes up, and I call those kind of like planning and prepping time. And then there's kind of like the calm before the storm, and that's usually when I get very, very, very peaceful. I get this kind of like calm, this calm over me, and that's what I've been going through is the kind of the calm phase where I feel very zen, and then that kind of I go work out in the garden and I feel very zen, and that's usually in the summer. So in the spring is usually when I prep. The summer is usually when I'm really zen, because the fall is every fucking year is when the shit hits the fan. Although the shit has hit the fan in summer before. Um, Usually starts in May. It's gonna be May. Um, May 1st, which is May Day, which is the anarchist holiday, through November 5th, which is remember the 5th of November. That's usually civil unrest time, but that's also the time where I'm like the most calm, because like the worse things get, the calmer I get. Um, it's all those intermediate points that are anxiety, right? Those transitionary, like being inside the grocery store is fine and driving around is fine. It's those transitionary spaces in like the parking lots. Well, we're in the parking lot now. We're waiting for the store to open, right? So the other shoe's about to drop, the ball's about to drop, the balloon's about to go up, and I get anxious again, and I'll tell you why after this word from our sponsor. Just kidding. I don't have a sponsor. Um, this is the time, everyone says check all your preps, make sure there isn't any last things, and that's where I'm at right now. Like I'm looking around the house going like, do I really have everything I need? That's the scary part. Ordering more gauze, ordering, extra pairs of shoes, um, ordering, getting more TP, getting more, hygiene stuff. And people, prepping TP is dumb. No, prepping TP is smart. Uh, Hoarding TP, uh, when everybody else gets the same idea, even though you could have been buying TP the whole time when resources were available, is stupid. Buy resources when they're available. The time for resources being available was 6 months ago, um, or even maybe 3 months ago, but not now. If you're running out and buying tons of TP now, you're just a dick, or you're actually out. In which case, the good news is you'll still find some. The bad news is where you'll find it is in the rural areas, and the rural areas they've seen this movie before. I'll tell you what. Um, all the people from the cities who didn't fucking prepare come out to the rural areas that get 1/50th of the supplies that the cities do, because it's based on geographical density as to how much supplies each store, like how many stores there are to serve. So the good news is I'm gonna give a plug to Costco now. At least Costco has been making new Costco's. I wish hospitals. I wish they were making more frigging hospitals. But at least Costco has been. I think Costco is smart enough to see this, and so they are one of the only places that actually has enough warehouse space to at least absorb a little bit of this. Walmart, and I love Walmart. Um, Now that I but their prices are jacked. Same thing with like Winco, their prices are jacked, but like warehouses or Costco is one of the only places with enough like warehouse space to actually be able to like have distribution center levels of product, um, for things like toilet paper and water. Whereas like Winco, I remember during the Rona. Now, why everyone was buying bottled water during the Rona, I have no idea, but I have pictures from back then listening to my favorite song, Gotta Get It, Gotta Get It, Gotta Get It. Gotta get it, gotta get it. Walking around empty freaking grocery stores. Winco, which is massive, was out of water and TP and wipes and everything else. Yeast. That took like 6-9 months for fucking yeast to come back. That was insane. Um, you, you know, Costco is one of the only places that can kind of at least temper that a little bit. The problem is, just speaking of like bugging out for a second, you have to have alternate routes that drive around all the Costco's. Because when that stupid longshoreman bullshit happened, you couldn't get around the Costco.
What gonna do when the world goes feral? What gonna do when people go insane? What you gonna do when lives run out? What you gonna do when you realize everyone who tried to was actually full eyes? Oh, what gonna do when the world falls? What gonna do when the world goes to hell? What gonna do when society crashes? What gonna do when the shit hits the fan? The shit defends today. I know what people say. Things got worse and worse. Now I have no one to blame. People are running around naked, sitting on the streets. These kids walking around with no shoes on their feet. Stop telling me to come and tell the others. No for me, I miss the bell. The shit defends today. I know what people say. Things got worse and worse. Something was off, but you said I was wrong. I kept giving you money and support, but you fed me lies. You blame this on everyone but yourself, and I really followed you, and now I'm in trouble. The state defends today. I know what people say. Things got worse and worse. Now I have no one to blame. I ignore everything in my body, telling me something was wrong, but you know all along. You took everything I had and left me with nothing, but at least you leave me alone now. Yes, that's something to say. Defense today. I know what people say. Things got worse and worse. Now I have no one to blame.
You know, you gotta be able to get around the Costco's. Sorry, this is gonna be a little background noise real quick. You gotta be able to get around the Costco's, um, and you gotta realize that people, I would say, like, unless you live in a town or like a part of the city that's like a really densely populated part of the city that actually has like a voting base, you're not gonna get the help. You're not gonna get the help that you need. Um, First of all, how I, there's so much that I want to say, but I don't know how to say it. Um, so we're in week whatever of Appallachonia now, and almost universally, all the help that's coming is from civilians. And I think there was enough of a public outcry to get all the little power grabbers to stop trying to seize everybody's stuff and then redistribute it themselves. And to be clear, I know why they do it. I know why FEMA tries to seize everything. They think that everything needs to come from them, and they think they need to be rationing it, like how they did during the Rona. But they can't hold on to that for very long, especially when there's social media pressure. So then they tried to false flag everybody and say that militias were threatening FEMA. That turned out to be completely false. There was one guy I think that said don't come to his house or something, um, which is why you do have to be really careful what you say. But the problem is, and I've been stuck on this many times, like trying to figure out what I should and shouldn't say, and I mean, there's only like 5 people that listen to the show, but I mean, there could be like one of those 5 people could hate me and could try to be dissecting everything I say and try to turn me in. And the problem is, like, you could be completely paralyzed in fear over not saying anything, or you could just try to do your best. And if you get thrown in the gulag, you get thrown in the gulag. Like, unfortunately, like, those are your two alternatives. Either say something and eventually you're going to be thrown in the gulag no matter what, because it's a slippery slope, and sooner or later everyone's going to be on so many lists they're going to have to make up lists for lists, or you just don't say anything and you don't help anybody and you don't help yourself think through problems, and you're going to make some kind of stupid mistake. And what I've noticed in the prepper community, or whatever you want to call it, these mutual aid, subdivision groups, is they think they are so squared away, but they've never been challenged. And what I mean by that is, specifically, nobody's ever challenged them on their bullshit. Nobody's ever said your idea is dumb. Nobody's ever said you need a backup plan. Nobody's ever told them that they're screwed. Nobody's ever told them that, like, you're not going to be quoting Bible verses to some lunatic who's shoved a gun in your face and wants to run off with your granddaughters to their dungeon. Like, they don't get it. And if they're the alpha and they're the one that's trained and they're the one that's going to be the doing the door kicking, they're not always going to be awake, and they have this fantasy that somebody's going to come to their door and ask permission, and that's not how bad guys work. You'll make your outside look as unwelcoming as possible. It's like, that's not how meth heads work. That's not how people trying to steal your heart medicine work, thinking that it's hard drugs. Like, they don't care. They will stumble right into the absolute most uninviting place on the planet because they're not driven by what by a normal human being's concerns. They only want one thing, their fix, and if there's things in the way of the fix, they just clamber through the things. They'll walk right through barbed wire to try to get to your fix. And then you've got meth blood everywhere. Like, people don't get it, and they don't want to get it, and then they just lash out when they're challenged, and then they just throw their hands up and they go, well, why even bother? And it doesn't matter if it's illegal, violent, illegal immigration. It doesn't matter if it's druggies or gang warlords or what's the other one? Like starving people, or EMPs. Like, it might not even be people; it just might be EMPs. They're like, well, if we can just get wiped out by a Carrington event, why even bother? And it's like, dude, is that? Or like, we could just get EMP'd, then why even bother? Because we're going to EMP them too, and then the world's just going to be over. It's like, that's not how it works. People think in just, they want to think in absolutes because their comfort zone is either they're going to be Rambo or they're going to just get blipped out of existence. And they're just super like bipolar, and talking to them is impossible. The reality is it's way more nuanced and complicated. And in reality, what happens is every every conflict, success or failure, is measured by very tiny margins of error, and it really boils down to who makes the most mistakes. So if you're trying to get out of the city, for example, your success or failure of getting out of the city is predicated upon you making less mistakes than everybody else trying to get out of the city. You don't have to be John Wick, Rambo, to get out of there. You just have to be a little bit smarter and a little bit faster than everybody else. You got to get out a little bit sooner. You got to be able to recognize it faster with your tripwires, and you have to be able to make some kind of decision, because making any decision is going to be better than making no decision. Because if analysis paralysis sets in, you're going to wait till it's too late, and that's what everybody else is doing. So if you have your get home plan now, you build your get home plan in stages, and then you prioritize it by getting as far away with as many potentials as just the very, very, very first part. So getting a mile away as many ways as possible, and then getting 2 miles away as many ways as possible, and focus your entire plan on just the very first part, because that's the part that you have to execute the fastest. And I was bringing up getting around the Costco earlier. If that Costco is closer to your bug out than further, you're going to have to try to figure out your way around that Costco faster. Or maybe that Costco isn't jam packed right away and it's easier to get around. But in my case, there's like two Costco's. There's like two Costco's where I have to, get past. No, three. Um, and the freeway can get jammed up at all three of those Costco's, because Costco's are notoriously close to freeways. So um, I might be able to get past the first two Costco's, but the third Costco is going to be jammed up potentially. And so I don't have to worry necessarily as much about getting past the third Costco, as long as I can get past the first. If I can get past the first one, I can probably get past the second one, right? But I'm going to get stuck at that third Costco. So I'm going to spend more time trying to figure out my way around the first two, and then make sure I have at least one way around the third one. And then as I spend more time thinking about it, eventually I can figure out a second and third way around that third Costco. But that's the same for Wincos. That's the same for Walmarts. And then you have to start figuring that out for overpasses and all kinds of stuff. Like, you have to figure out like just those first couple miles, and that's how you survive. You don't survive by being John Wick and saying you're going to fight it out with everybody. Um, you survive by just wanting to be left alone and figuring out the best way to be left alone when you're trying to survive. Be that bug out or bug in or bug upside down and bug up your butt. You know, you don't say you're going to do XYZ online, because there's going to be repercussions. I've always tried to preach just being calm and leaving everybody alone, but I just never feel like that's enough, right? I feel like I'm going to get thrown in the gulag no matter what, you know, and that just continually paralyzes me, especially as we get closer and closer to a major event, because I believe in major events, the first people that get told to be quiet are people who don't want to be quiet, and I'm the kind of person that will walk right into the minefield, just to see if there is really a minefield there, because I would never expect someone else to do something that I wouldn't do. But I'm no Alex Jones. I'm not a truther. I'm not trying to expose the inner workings of Hollywood. I'm I just want to be left alone, and I want other people to survive, and those two things are kind of at odds with each other. Um, but everybody I talk to is either super bipolar, meaning they either think nothing's going to happen or they think so much is going to happen to where it's irrelevant, or they're in analysis paralysis and they want to jump to the solution without iteratively planning it in manageable chunks. And that means, like, go bug out at the best location on the planet, even though they're not they're not there yet. They haven't built that infrastructure and planning it to be able to do that. And so, since they can't plan what, like, the best idea is, they don't want to plan like little interim ideas to slowly, get them there. I think they want to once it's explained to them, you know, and so they need someone to talk them through it. But the people that are like super bipolar, like either nothing's going to happen or it's not going to matter, those people are super hard to talk to, because once they realize that their plan is a joke, you break them. And I don't mean to do that. I don't mean to break them. It's just that I'm surprised when people who are squared away, or so they say, want to stay in their subdivision. And it's like, well, how long do you plan on this being out for? Because you look at the Appalachians, and some of those places are not going to have roads or power for 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year, maybe more. They might have power, but they might not have a road, like a serviceable road, for like a year or longer. I know people from storms from last year who still don't have paved roads again yet. Like, so in that kind of a situation, your subdivision might be okay, but if a bus full of ferals gets dropped off, meaning, people who are unglued, psychotic criminals that have no humanity left in them, your little subdivision became a liability. You've got to get so damn far away from subdivision onia. Defending a subdivision for more than a couple days is insanely difficult, almost impossible. Um, in my travels around suburbonia, to date, I think I've only seen like one or two subdivisions that actually have like brick walls around them. And could you defend a subdivision that had brick walls around it? Oh yeah, you bet your ass you could. That would be peak. You could beef that up really, really nicely, and um, it would become almost impenetrable. But it would also become your graveyard, because there isn't enough. You couldn't have enough food. You couldn't grow enough food, and unless you've got sort of, you think like the town. that has like the well in the middle, like the chance of your subdivision having an underground well that people can't mess with, like you're talking about like medieval times. Like you need to be out in farmland where everybody can spread out, where you can build little towers and see out far and defend livestock and forage for mushrooms and comb the desert and not have your well poisoned, you know, and collect a bunch of bugs so the people who want to eat bug paste can eat bug paste or whatever it is that gets you going. Um, you got like you are going to have to get 20 miles away and then get like 20 more miles away and then get like 20 more miles away. Because I keep telling people this, a meth head can do 20 miles no problem without food, without sleep. And I've heard people say 20 miles isn't that much. Like, a normal, healthy adult human male can do 20 miles in a day. They can, but they're not going to wake up the next day and do another 20. Or they're not going to do 20 for 24 hours at a time, but then do another 20 as soon as they wake up from their meth stupor. Like, if you haven't dealt with meth heads, they are actually, in a lot of ways, more dangerous than zombies. And fent heads, they're like the Walking Dead. Like, if you haven't seen it, you have no idea. And so, like, you can put like barbed wire around your property, but like someone sooner or later is gonna eventually just like drive through it or steal a tractor and drive a tractor right through. Like it's tough. Like to have like a super like fortified position, you're talking about having even in farmland, basically building effectively like tank traps because you're gonna have to stop people from just driving, up armored killdozers. Like so do you have the type of ammo that can stop that? Do you have, towers and drones and binoculars and night vision? Like, you got to detect it like further out so you can try to stop it. Like, it's pretty nuts. And you're simply not going to be able to do that in a subdivision. Not without a lot of prep and planning and Molotovs. I mean, it's scary. Like, and you break people when you tell them this. But it's like, well, don't tell me that you're prepared. And I always ask them like, what are you preparing for? You think you're preparing for like one person? You think you're gonna go tell a kid to go, fly a kite when they're hungry and thirsty, when they're gathering intel, and you're not gonna try to gather intel from them when hand them the candy bar and say, hey, how many people are at your camp so we can send you more candy bars? Like you're just going to send that kid packing because you think that you're just some badass that can send a kid packing and you don't realize like all the implications of what you're doing, like, or you're just going to down a tree or two because that'll slow people down, but meth heads are going to walk right through those trees and not even pay attention. And do you have a silencer? So if you start picking off meth heads, like how do you know like that the other methods aren't going to hear it? And like, are you going to set up like a radio so people that want to far distance and like near distance recognition, like the fantasies that people come up with, like you can tell that they haven't even put 2 seconds into these little fantasies that they have. And it's like, you think you're squared away because you have a couple solar panels and a battery? Like, motherfucker, you have no idea. You have no idea what's coming. And I still think the reason for that is like us as authors have done like a real disservice. And I think a lot of like shit hits the fan books, besides The Road, which is gravel, hardcore. Besides The Road, these shit hits the fan prepper books, most of them don't even come close. I mean, dare I say, people are going to make fun of me, like Resident Evil Apocalypse. Is that the one I'm thinking of? The third? Is that the third one? That one was pretty. That one was pretty hardcore. When it gets silly, obviously, but like there at the beginning when she's like traveling around, Alice. Um, just a lot of movies, just and books and like comics, they don't do it justice. Like Walking Dead was a fucking joke. Um, you guys just have no idea how bad it's going to be. But all you have to do is survive, 1 hour at a time, you know, get further away 1 hour at a time. And that's how you think through your planning. And then stage, if you're going to cache things in, 1 hour or 2 hour intervals. You're going to need a change of clothes. So, if you can only trust somebody to cache a change of clothes, then do it. What you leave the city with is going to be looking like very different, from what you need to leave Surbabonia with. You know, your urban clothes are going to look different from your suburban clothes, which may look different from your rural clothes, because you're going to keep changing and trying to fit in with each spot over and over and over again. Um, that's just reality. So, um, I think, I think that you know, going back to like chasing hurricanes and stuff, I think that one of the things that I found interesting watching a couple of really good YouTubers, Mr. Guns and Gear, Southern Prepper One, and is it P&W Gorilla? Gosh darn it, why do I keep forgetting his name? P&W Gorilla has been Gorilla has been doing a really good job documenting what he was seeing down there too. And I think there's a few more, but some of them aren't really broadcasting it very much, which I think is more power to him. Like I think a little bit of recognition is good. I think that too much and you're kind of virtue signaling. Um, they've what I've really seen that surprised me, things that I didn't even think about, that what people, yeah, PNW Gorilla, on Twitter, what people need at the very, very, very beginning is not what they need in sustainment mode, especially when it comes to weather. That's the first thing. The second thing, if you're going to be an aid gorilla, is you need to make sure people don't steal your stuff, and that's what PNW Gorilla was saying happened. He was down there, and despite them bringing 50, 60, $70,000 worth of stuff, he said people were still stealing their personal gear that they brought, And he said people, instead of coming to get like one blanket, were coming and taking like 10 blankets. And they weren't asking. So obviously, they had other intentions, or they would have just asked, and they would have happily given them to him. And I think the other thing he said that jumped out was uh, people were taking extra despite them not needing it, because they were going to need it for other things that weren't for their like immediate personal survivability. And I think that's really scummy behavior, because if you want if you want some prepper things for like recreation, but somebody else needs that prepper thing, or they freeze to death, um, and that stuff's all being donated. I think that's really scummy. Um, and so, kind of how you could um, equate that, or transition that idea to like bugging in, bugging out. People are going to come in and steal your stuff constantly. People already steal each other's stuff now, and so you have these like disaster areas, and there's still people stealing. And some places there isn't looting, but other places there is, and people are just stealing. People will steal directly from the military and first responders, and they'll steal from you, and they'll steal from me. If you don't have methods and means and the mentality of deterring thieves, and you haven't mentally gone through that exercise, um, you're going to be at a disadvantage. And so I think that's really something to think about. And that is not something that I have thought about. I think a lot of people struggle with that. Well, it's just property. Sure, but I think after the balloon goes up, like, that property is going to be the difference between life and death. And if you planned and prepared and that's your property, you have the right to it. And how people reconcile that is going to be different for everybody. Um, but that's something you need to think about. That's something I need to think about. So, trying to see if there's any more to hammer home. I think a lot of the people who are vicariously being victims through the initial impact of the first few weeks, like, finally shut up. Um, it is clear that FEMA's. I'm guessing they're only helping like the main area. They're not helping the rural areas. But a lot of the nagging about that has died down. It's a fact now that FEMA is not helping, and that it's private citizens. But I think private citizens have been helping all along. I think it's what I said earlier. I've been recording this over several days, so I've a little bit lost track. But you've got, in my notes, I call them armchair aid workers. Uh, People who think they know what's best for the other side of the country and are just going to criticize people instead of doing anything. I call them shitbirds. But there's people who are logistics, and they do help, and they do help raise money. And I think I don't know, I just keep saying it, if everyone just stayed in their lane and minded their own damn business, it wouldn't be a big deal. If you're not going to help, don't criticize. And If all you can do is help with logistics and fundraising, you shouldn't be criticized. I shouldn't have lost almost all of my friends from both sides, both the people helping and the people not helping. Even though I was helping with fundraising the whole time and I was helping with logistics, and I still lost all my friends from both sides. And I think I'll say it again: you find out who your friends are, because you find out who shows up, and you find out who helps, and you find out who talks shit. And those people that talk shit, they only ever want to do stuff when they're going to get credit and get recognition. And if they're not going to get credit or recognition, they bow out because they're in it for the glory. They're not in it to help people. And a lot of them, when they find out what helping really looks like, or they go and they find that everything's roadblocked off, or they find that people didn't really need help and that people don't really need that much water. Like, people need water for the first few days, but then they might need something completely different. So if you're driving down tons of water, by the time you get there, they might not need water. And that's still why, like I said before, unless you have some very, very specialty thing, like cold weather gear, it's really not worth driving down there with water. Like, you could drive down, for example, if they needed water, you could just drive almost all the way down there, find out if they still needed water, and then grab a bunch, and then you'd save tons of gas and fuel and time and energy, and you're not driving water halfway across the country. That's just logistics. That's not talking shit. But if you're driving across cold weather gear, that makes perfect sense. And I don't know. I think I still have a lot to learn about guerrilla aid. But it is becoming clear to me that, like, guerrilla aid is going to be the future. And by that I mean how to get around the people that are trying to stop aid so you can get aid to the people who need it. And there's a lot of political reasons, and I think there's a lot of logistical reasons why those people don't get aid, but being fiercely independent shouldn't mean that you just get hung out to dry. Just because the logistics is inconvenient doesn't mean that you should get hung out to dry, or maybe only helped once or twice. So, your immediate neighbors, and their immediate neighbors is how that network should expand, and then working with, churches and schools and wherever you can set up distribution centers, but they do not need to be ran by an emergency service. Have I been through all that training? Yes, I have been through all that training. But I swear, once I was done with that training, I quit, because the training is really good. The bureaucracy and the hierarchy is not. Could I go to any location and immediately start incident command? Yeah, I could. Would I do fine? Yeah, I'll do fine. But that's not what they want. They want you to do that, and then they want to be able to come and take it over. And I will tell you what, that is not what we were taught. We were taught, if you were the incident commander, you were the incident commander until you handed it off. Nobody could come take it from you. Nobody could come take my supplies. Nobody could come take my staff. There is no rank. Whoever is there first is the incident commander until they hand it off to somebody else, and there's a process to hand it off. Joe Schmo can't come and just assume command and take all my shit that I've been working on, because they don't know the logistics, they don't know the situation, they haven't been updated on everything that's going on and the priorities. Everybody that comes there after incident command, including the sheriff, is there to support incident command. If search and rescue comes, they fall under incident command. If FEMA comes, they fall under incident command. They don't just come and take over because of the glory or because they think that can hand out bandages better than somebody else can. The only people that do that are glory whores and people who want to hoard supplies so they can turn into a tyrannical idiot that thinks somehow hoarding life-saving food and water and somehow I can't even gatekeeping life-saving supplies is somehow a good idea. Those people should not be anywhere near an emergency or in any semblance of power at all. It just shouldn't be. Um, Whoever's doing incident command, the reason why it's always the first person there is because the first person there knows the most because they've been there the longest. And everybody that's been coming there up until then has been feeding them all the information. And every new person that comes just gets added. And then as you get enough people, you break them off into different subgroups. And then as you get more people, you start building teams. You don't build up incident command and just have somebody come take over. That just, I don't know. That is not what we were trained. And that's why I won't be a part of it. And that's why I haven't been a part of it for a long time. Because there's still, what is it, like the HOA Karen, and like, FEMA Karen want to come and take over, and that's not how you do this. That's not how you do that. It's like, why don't you go find your own disaster to take care of? So, um, like we were taught, like if you're the ICS leader in this area, and the fire department comes, you give the fire department the situation, and if they don't need help, if you don't need help, they mark your area off so they can go check the next person. Like, it was all designed about being localized, being able to take care of your local geographic area of wherever you happen to be at the time. And I don't know if these people saw too many movies or they just got too power drunk during the Rona, or if they got too power drunk during Maui or Puerto Rico. I don't know. I just it's just disgusting. But people have to have the emotional intelligence, I think, to be able to tell the difference um, behind people's motivations, so they can kind of combat people's motivations, I guess, like with logic and reasoning, and then raising awareness, um, and winning over hearts and minds, and not worrying about recognition. You don't help people for recognition. You help people, and expect that you're never going to get noticed and you're never going to get recognized, and you just keep helping people anyway. Um, and so, like, I guess I'll leave you with this stream of consciousness podcast. Um, Whenever I had to bug out from areas that I've had to bug out from, I always took people with me that needed to bug out in the same direction that I needed to bug out. And that's kind of a dual role. Like, I don't know, I do better when I have to be helping somebody. So if I had to get out of a dangerous area, finding like maybe a mom and a kid or something, or finding an old lady or whatever, and just be like, I'm bugging out. Are you guys bugging out? Yeah. Are you guys bugging out that way? Yeah. Okay, let's go. And you just if you just keep doing that, you may only ever help like one person in your entire life. But like at least you will have helped somebody. And I guess you can die knowing that you weren't a giant piece of shit. Um that uses other people to get ahead. And I want to help more people without being taken advantage of. And so my brain is kind of trailing off. So I'm just going to leave you with that. And this has been my new Stream of Consciousness podcast. So buy my books. And the only way we make it through this is together, and there's still a little bit of time. So don't give up. Oh, yeah, yeah. My prediction, I think the day after the election, if one of them wins, I think all the wars are going to suddenly die down. And if the other one wins, I think all the wars are going to kick off. So vote so your vote can't be stolen, and be prepared for November 21st to 24th, depending on when the votes are actually quote unquote certified. If that's even, I don't even know what the process is for certifying the votes anymore. But, or if, yeah, just be prepared for that last week of November to be very aware of the news. And so there's still time. There's still time, folks. So plan and prepare accordingly. Talk to y'all later. Bye bye.